You keep telling yourself that you'll write tomorrow, but tomorrow keeps turning into next week. And deep down you're wondering, am I really called to this, or am I just making this up? Man, I've lived that cycle. The guilt, the hesitation, the pressure to perform instead of obey. But one shift changed everything for me. And it wasn't more hustle. It was remembering that writing is obedience. If that sounds like you, stick around for this video and maybe hit subscribe. I create videos to help Christian writers like you say yes and show up faithfully. Okay, now while I don't know what's causing you in particular to hit snooze on your calling, I can tell you what caused me to hit snooze on mine. And maybe you hear a little bit of yourself in there. Let me know in the comment section. I would say the first one, and probably the one that I still battle with, is impostor syndrome. You know, this idea or concept that I am not qualified to do the thing that I feel that God is calling me to do. And so the way I try to fix this was probably the worst possible way to fix that, which is I tried to find, and on some level still kind of do, worldly validation for God's call. And that is the worst thing that you can do, because the truth of the matter is, if God called you, he also then didn't tell the people around you oftentimes that he called you to do it. And so it would be sort of like Noah asking his neighbor what his neighbor thought about his ark. Like, yes, does God confirm things through godly counsel? Certainly, but be very cautious of that when you are trying to confirm your calling if you're battling imposter syndrome, because it's just not going to work out the way that you think it will. I thought I would write something, show it to someone, and they would go, "Oh, this is the most wonderful thing I've ever read. Oh my gosh, you're amazing." And that is not what happened. That is not what happened. And so it would just feed back into the imposter syndrome. So imposter syndrome, that was one of the things, and still kind of one of the things that keeps me a little bit from moving forward. The second thing that causes me to hit snooze is guilt. And it's guilt that I put on myself, right? Like I've set a time at my calendar, or, my schedule, like I'm going to write, this block of time, and then life happens and I don't get to write at that time. And whether it's just, my insurance business took over that time slot, or I had a family thing or a church thing or whatever it is, right? And I would feel guilty about it because I missed my appointment that I had made for myself. And while I do think it's really important for writers for consistency to put it on your calendar and let that be a sacred time, life also happens and you have to be flexible. And I would just feel massive guilt with it. Or I created a deadline, like I'm going to have this number of words written by this time, and deadlines are important. I'm a big fan of deadlines, but we have to be realistic, and I'm terrible about being realistic about my deadlines. And so when I didn't meet a deadline that I arbitrarily made for myself, it would create this cycle of guilt that I would then feed into the imposter syndrome, and it was super, super messy. And so guilt when I missed a writing window or a deadline, major issue there. And then isolation, right? There was no one to hold me accountable. There was nobody who was looking for me to do the thing that God had called me to do other than God. And so it just felt so isolating, and there was, like, I was in my little echo chamber, and that isolation led to the spiritual warfare that was just constant. Like, you're not good enough, you're not called, you need to put the pen down, you need to focus on the things that actually matter, like just over and over and over again. Meanwhile, right, the Holy Spirit is like tugging me this way, and the spiritual warfare is tugging me this way. Like, it was an absolute mess. And so those were things that I had to get under control in order for me to step forward and be consistent with my writing. All right, I did 3 things to help me push past all of those problems. And the very first thing, probably the most important thing that I did, is I hired a Christian ministry coach. And I know that is not in everyone's budget, but let me just tell you, if I look back over the 10 years, and it has been 10 years, the thing that propelled me the most in this calling was hiring the coach. Now, I was blessed to be in a position where we could afford to do that. And so I totally sympathize if you are not in that position, but I have to give credit where credit is due. And she helped me gain clarity. She helped me gain accountability. She helped me realize that I'm not crazy, which it sounds silly, but that was a huge thing that I needed in that moment, because you do feel a little bit crazy, don't you? Like, you feel like God's called you to do this thing, but no one else around you is called to do the thing. And so you start to go, am I nuts? Am I just a little bit crazy? And so she helped me work through some of that and the fear and the guilt. And it was incredible. If that is not in your budget, I totally understand and respect that. So let me help you a little bit, because if you can't hire a Christian ministry coach right now, there are some things that you can do to help provide some of the things that she provided for me. Leverage social media. Like, you can leverage it in a couple ways. You can find a group, whether it's a Facebook group or maybe you hop on TikTok and you find a couple people that you can meet with outside, but use social media to find other like-minded Christian writers that can provide that accountability and that community that we really need. I think, a really simple thing, and I know that this might be terrifying for you, but do it. Be bold about it. I did it, and it was hard the first time I did it, but I'm so thankful that I did it. Post on social media that you're writing. Just do it. I think you'll be shocked to find most people are incredibly encouraging, and honestly, most people aren't going to care, but the few that do, they're going to be super encouraging. And there's just something about posting it publicly and declaring it. It's like putting a flag in the ground. This is what I'm doing. Man, it just provides that accountability. It is incredible. So if you can't hire a Christian ministry coach, and even if you can, post on social media that you are doing that. Get bold about it. Yes, it's scary, and yes, you probably don't feel bold, but do it anyway. Do it scared. I think you'll be pretty shocked at the results with that. And then on Saturdays, you can pop into my writing sprint. So they're going to be on YouTube. I'm going to go live, and it's just a 60-minute window of writing sprints. I start with a small devotional. We then do 2 20-minute sprints and some digital high fives in there. It's a great way to build accountability. So I put it on Saturday. So for those of us working on our 9 to 5s, it's on the weekend. And if you cannot watch it at 10 a.m. on Saturday, not a big deal. It lives on there forever. So pick a time in your schedule and do that. That accountability that you're not doing it alone, coupled with that 20-minute just sprint, we're just gonna do it for 20 minutes. It'll help build some consistency and get you into that accountability mode. And then you're gonna break this down into bite-sized chunks, because writing a book, and if you're writing a nonfiction Christian book, they're about 60,000 words. That feels daunting and overwhelming, but writing 500 words, far more manageable. And so take the project that you feel like God's called you to write and break it down into bite-sized manageable bites, because that is going to, as you complete, I'm just going to do 500 words today, and you knock out 500 words, that's going to give you confidence to get up the next day and write another 500 words and then another 500 words. Because if you're looking at 60,000 words, that just feels so overwhelming and so daunting. That's like trying to eat an elephant, right? It's too big. But if you break it down into more manageable chunks, then over time, consistently, you'll knock out that 60 words. And so take your project and break it down into bite-sized manageable chunks. And man, you need to celebrate the wins. And I am terrible about this. I am so hard on myself, but you've got to take time to get excited about the wins and then reflect on the losses. And I think that this balance is important. So let me give you an example. Let's say you put in your calendar that you want to write 6 times that week, 20-minute blocks, right? 6 days, you're going to do 20 minutes. You get 4 out of the 6 days. Celebrate the 4 days. You wrote for 4 days. You wrote, for an hour and 20 minutes. Let's celebrate that. That might have been better than what you did the week before. So let's take a moment and celebrate it. And then ask yourself, reflect on why you didn't get to 6. So we're not beating ourselves up about the losses, but let's be real and honest about it. Was it too much? Maybe you're overextending yourself, and that's okay. And I am terrible about this. I think I have way more capacity some weeks than I actually do. And so maybe you're overextending yourself, or maybe you needed to shift some things around and optimize some things. Whatever it is, reflect on why you didn't get to the 6 that you had originally booked, while also balancing that with celebrating the win that you did get. All right, and this last one, and I wish I had started this sooner. Create a truth file. Because here's the thing. When you are battling with imposter syndrome, and when you are dealing with feeling like you're not called or you're not good enough, you need some additional truths that you can swap those lies out for. So you're going to create a truth file, whether it's on your phone or on your computer or in a notebook. And anytime you get any positive comments or feedback or, anything, any of those wins, you're going to save it in that file. So in the days where you're sitting down at your computer and you're just feeling totally overwhelmed, like I can't do this, I'm not qualified, you're going to pull up that file and you're going to go through those small moments of truth. The moments where I had a friend message me and she bought my children's book just to support my ministry. That was incredible. My sister-in-law sent me a picture of one of her friend's kids, and they were reading my children's book, and it was a picture of these two sweet sisters, and my book was in front of them. Like, those wins, man, they will make a huge difference. And even before I had published my book, I had people telling me, one of the blog posts that I read at church, I had somebody come up to me and say, man, that really impacted my heart. And so write your truth file so that when you're feeling overwhelmed and like you're not called, you can go back and start reading. No. Those lies are not, these are the truths, right, that I am hanging on to. So create a truth file. So if you have been caught up in the cycle, guilt, inconsistency, fear, I hope that you see that you are not alone. And most importantly, you're also not stuck. You can start fresh this week. And hey, you don't need to do this alone. In fact, you shouldn't do this alone. If you're a Christian writer trying to obey God, but you are struggling to stay consistent with your words, man, come write with me. Every Saturday at 10 a.m. Central, I host a live writing sprint on YouTube. It is a sacred place to show up, pray, and just begin. Can't make it live? That's okay. Set your own time, watch the replay, and still commit to showing up. And if you are craving more clarity and want to go deeper on this topic, something special is coming soon. I'm putting a guide together called The Writer's Yes to help us all finally stop hesitating and start obeying. So hit subscribe, show up on Saturday, and let's say yes to the call, one word at a time. Thanks, guys.